Alright everyone, we start off today talking about inflation because this should be the front page news at this time. There are only two things you should be talking about. Hunter Biden's scandal. No, not the N-word scandal, but the one that everyone has conveniently forgotten about, which is why this release happened. Specifically with regards to him setting up meetings with his dad while he was VP with execs that he was doing dirty business with. Nobody even talks about that one, so that's been swept under the rug successfully. And the other thing is the economy. Stagflation is apparently here. First and foremost, though, before we get into the thick of things, down below this video, if you're watching on YouTube, there will be a pinned comment with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. Keep in mind, I make 4 videos a day, only 2 of them end up on YouTube for algorithmic and censorship purposes. Now, 5% inflation. It's the worst that it's been since 2008. What happened in 2008, everyone? Was it, the beginning of the Great Recession that completely crippled my entire generation? Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Fun times are ahead. See, the problem is you've had 2 months in a row with really shitty jobs reports and inflation. In April, you had, I think it was 4.6% inflation, and now 5%, so it's gone up even more. This is because Beijing Biden is a big spender with no clue how to manage an economy. April's jobs report was so bad that unemployment ticked up by 0.1. In May, thankfully, it was a little bit better, but it still came in 100,000 below expectations. Now, this is the Biden economy that is now kicked in. Biden has ruined the border, which means we're going to spend through the nose to try to salvage that situation. He has had destroyed Keystone, which means that somewhat of 40,000 or so jobs that would have been created in the near future, they're kaput. He's attacked exploratory drilling, talking about fracking and so forth, talking about literally hunting after the U.S. Gun manufacturers, which, by the way, supply a lot more than just small arms to the U.S. population and bring in an enormous amount of money to the economy. Everything that Biden is doing is wrong. Everything that he is doing, at least on an economic basis, is inarguably bad for the economy. At what point, how many months are we going to have inflation well ahead of population growth and GDP and so forth? How many poor economic markers do we need before we declare ourselves to be in a stagflation recession? It'll be like the 70s. Now again, there are some redeeming facets to the mid to late 70s. Of course, Led Zeppelin is touring, and Black Sabbath, and all of these wonderful things. And bell-bottoms are okay, and discos depends on where it's from. But mostly it was shitty. People who lived through it, like my mom, had said that herself. And she's a Fleetwood Mac fan, so keep this in mind. She's like, yeah, the 70s kind of sucked. Thank goodness for the 80s. I have the same basic concept. Didn't get enough of the 80s. We need more white leisure suits and neon lights. Biden has crippled the economy. The funny thing is that all of the things that people worried about happening under Trump are happening under Joe Biden, right? Did you see the report the other day? This has nothing to do with inflation, although war, it's good for the economy if you're talking about the arms industry. It's good for the big players, bad for everyone else getting fucking shot. Yeah, did you see that they're considering the possibility of using airstrikes continuously in Afghanistan even after the withdrawal, which will supposedly happen in September? Because the Taliban might take Kabul. That's because you fucked up. Biden has fucked the situation up beyond all recall. As usual, Obama was right. Of course, he disagrees on what fuck up actually means in the context. Everything Biden's doing is falling apart. His infrastructure bill just collapsed. He ended talks with the Republicans because he throws his hands up and says, well, I'm not willing or able to negotiate with these people like a proper government's meant to be incepted to do. So, fuck it. If I can't get my way, I'm going to take my toys and go home. What a goddamn crybaby. And we have fucking 5% inflation. To be clear, if this continues for a few more months, an enormous proportion of any wealth and holdings you have, bye-bye. The price of goods, have you seen the double-digit catastrophic rise in the price of goods? Why do you think the housing market's messed up? How much does wood cost? Wood, it's not something that you buy every day. I loved it when Ben Shapiro was there with his 2x4 or something. Oh, I just bought wood at Home Depot, and I don't know what that was about. It was apparently not meant to be cringy. Well, he didn't succeed at his messaging. If it costs twice as much to buy the wood, it's going to cost a considerably higher amount to make the house. I wonder what the glass prices are. They've probably risen. I know steel prices, weren't they up like 60% or some crazy shit year over year? And this keeps happening. Again, since Biden has taken command, honk honk, of the asterisk administration, virtually everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Border crisis, wars and rumors of wars related to Afghanistan, certainly a reduction of peace talks over Korea. You've got inflation now, which should be terrifying people. You've got everything. The funniest part, though, is how they're trying to brand the inflation. Well, it's just transitory. A little bit of inflation is a good thing. Yeah, it's okay. We can absorb this. It's transitory. The use of the term transitory, the idea is, oh, well, don't worry, it won't last too long. But the thing is, if you have, let's say, 4 or 5 months in a row of this kind of inflation, a huge amount of wealth has already been diluted, because what's happened is more money's in the economy. It's representing the same amount, though, of goods, or arguably less and less because of lower production because of the COVID response. So you've got the same amount of goods represented by enormously larger quantities of physical currency. The problem is that because it can only represent those goods, it means that the overall value of those goods now declines. It takes more money to equate to each good being represented. So you've got money in your bank account. It's worth less than it was last month, by 5%, roughly. You've just been taxed, effectively. This, by the way, this represents an enormous tax, huge tax at this point, between those 2 months, on the middle class and the upper middle class, on two of the most productive groups within society, the solid middle and the upper middle. Your yuppies, your dinks, arguably, all of these people, tens of millions of them, have just been taxed. Well, the rich don't mind. Bezos will still be rich. Yeah, he's lost the same equivalent wealth on paper, but he's still a multi-billionaire. Elon Musk, he doesn't care. Bill Gates, he doesn't care. And if you're at the very bottom and have no savings, and you don't have property and stuff because you're working paycheck to paycheck, things will cost a little bit more, but the government will give you welfare breadcrumbs because Biden wants you to vote for him. Other than that, everyone in society suffers. From the working class on up, everybody suffers. But it's transitory. Don't worry, we're only siphoning wealth out of the economy to pump it full of stimulating, funny money for a few months. Okay, you just lost 15, 20%, maybe 25% of all of your wealth, effectively, simply based on the fact that the wealth that you have and the money you make is now worth considerably less. Causing, by the way, the possibility of a debt spiral situation. Because people now can afford less, they buy less. Because they're buying less, less tax revenue comes in. The government raises taxes or pumps the economy fucking more. The problem is that this has happened before. Not so much in the U.S., because until recently, you got to realize the United States government is a little bit more hamstrung in its maneuverability than most governments, but in other countries, when this sort of thing happens, it can lead to hyperinflation. So all of a sudden your money is literally worthless. You can end up with a Venezuela situation where you literally wipe your ass with US dollars because they are worth nothing. They are fundamentally worthless. Do I predict this will happen? No, but I do believe what Ramsey Paul said, and I echoed this at the time as well when I was on Homelands, that Biden is another Jimmy Carter. Under Carter and his economic policy, we suffered prolonged inflation, which destroyed jobs, it destroyed productivity, and it caused a lot of secondary effects. People cut back their spending, and what Reagan attempted to do is, hey, maybe the government's the problem. Maybe there's something wrong with what we're doing. The people are working just as hard as ever, but all this wealth keeps disappearing. Maybe we should try something else. You see, this is what Trump did, and it worked. Thank goodness for the Trump economic period bolstering things. We would be in a depression right now if Trump hadn't been our president. We'd be in a depression because all of that deregulation takes time to scale back. Biden has already done incalculable damage, but the thing is that it still takes him longer. It's going to take him probably more than a year to undo everything Trump did. So for a little while, we've got a bit of a reprieve. This isn't nearly as bad as it can get. When the inflation report came out last month, people were like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. And they said, don't worry, people, don't panic. It's probably just economic noise. It's just 1 month, 4.6% or something, I think it was, or 4.2, but don't worry too much. 1/20th of your wealth just disappeared. Don't worry too much. But now we've got another month where the same is happening and it's actually worse. You've again got an anemic jobs report. Unemployment ticks down, but it came in 100K below expectations. The economy is faltering, and it's Beijing Biden's fault. This is Bidenomics. It's a return to the old normal of neoliberal crap. It's bullshit. It doesn't work. We can prove it. We've tried it before. We've been trying it since the Carter era. On and off, to a greater or lesser degree. And they're talking about creating a new housing bubble. Hey, we're going to get kids student loans paid off, which, by the way, would hyperinflate the currency even more. You'd probably see 10% inflation at that point if Elizabeth Warren got her way. We're going to get rid of that debt and get them into buying homes. We're going to get them into more debt. Oh, that's a great idea. That's not setting up for a bubble in the next 10 years. It'll blow up in our faces and probably destroy the Zoomers the way you destroyed the millennials. It's almost like they're doing it on purpose. They just want the younger generations to be completely shut out of the economy. And it's the socialism within government. It's the leftism that's to blame. It's not capitalism. None of this is capitalistic. Pumping the system full of funny money, hyper-regulating everything, lockdowns, these aren't capitalism. It's the exact opposite, and that's our problem. That's about all. Peace out.